The locker room door slammed shut and Lexie Hull finally broke. She couldn't even look her teammates in the eye anymore. What she revealed next about those dark days inside the Indiana Fever locker room left WNBA fans absolutely stunned. This wasn't just another player venting about losses. This was raw, unfiltered truth about a team on the brink of collapse. And the most shocking part? Everything changed the moment Caitlin Clark walked through that door. But what really happened behind closed doors? The secrets Hull just exposed will leave you speechless. Before we dive into the shocking revelations, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell because what you're about to hear has never been revealed until now. Picture this: 11 games in 20 days. That's not a typo. 11 brutal WNBA games crammed into less than 3 weeks. Hull's voice still cracks when she talks about it. We were beyond exhausted. It felt impossible to survive. And just when you thought you could catch your breath, boom, another game the next night. The physical toll was obvious. Swollen knees wrapped in ice, ankles taped so thick they looked like casts, players literally collapsing into their seats on team buses. But here's what nobody saw. The real damage was happening in their minds. Film sessions? Forget about it. They shrunk from hour-long strategy meetings to 5-minute huddles in hotel lobbies. Practice? A luxury they couldn't afford. The team was living on energy drinks, ice packs, and whatever mental strength they had left. By the time their record hit 2-11, the outside world had written them off. Fans were angry. Sports commentators were ruthless. Headlines called them the worst team in the league, but for Lexie Hull, it got even darker. Her three-point shooting, once her superpower at Stanford, crashed to an unthinkable 11%. 11%! For context, that's like a professional chef suddenly burning water. She remembers one specific night that nearly broke her completely. Picture an empty gym at midnight, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, just Hull, a basketball, and her demons. I kept shooting and shooting, hoping something would click, she reveals. But nothing worked. Every miss felt like another piece of my identity slipping away. I didn't even know who I was anymore as a player. The confession that stunned everyone came next. Hull admitted she wanted the season to just end. Not improve, not turn around, just end. That's how bad things had gotten. A professional athlete at the highest level, someone who dedicated their entire life to basketball, was ready to walk away from it all. Head coach Christy Sides saw the crisis unfolding, but instead of screaming or threatening roster changes, she did something nobody expected. She called a team meeting with no playbooks, no game film, no basketball at all. Just chairs in a circle and one rule: total honesty. For 3 straight hours, that locker room transformed into something between a therapy session and a family intervention. Veterans who'd been in the league for years broke down talking about their worst seasons. Rookies admitted fears they'd never dared speak out loud. Fear of being cut, fear of letting teammates down, fear that maybe they just weren't good enough for this level. One player even confessed she'd been crying in her car after every practice, too embarrassed to let anyone see her struggle. By the end of that meeting, something shifted. It wasn't Hollywood magic where everything instantly got better, but for the first time all season, they weren't just individual players trying to survive. They were a team ready to fight together. Coach Sides left them with one message that night: stop staring at the scoreboard and start seeing each other. The transformation started small. Team dinners became mandatory, but not the forced, awkward kind. Real conversations over real food. Movie nights in hotel rooms where they actually laughed together. Community service work that reminded them basketball was just a game. Hull noticed teammates who hadn't spoken all season suddenly becoming friends. Veteran players started mentoring rookies without being asked. The bench, once silent during blowout losses, became the loudest section in every arena. Then came May 25th, 2024. Indiana versus Las Vegas, the defending champions. Nobody, and I mean nobody, gave the Fever a chance. Vegas was loaded with all-stars. Indiana was still finding their identity. Hull wasn't even supposed to play major minutes that night. What happened next became the spark that ignited everything. First shot from behind the arc, nothing but net. Second shot, pure silk. By the time Hull nailed her third three-pointer in a row, the arena erupted. Something inside her had finally clicked. That 11% shooter, she transformed into a sniper, finishing the game with numbers that made statisticians double-check their math. When Hull played 30 minutes or more after that night, she shot an absolutely insane 67% from three-point range. 67%! But here's the part that gives you chills. The real transformation wasn't happening during games. It was those midnight sessions that became legendary. While other teams were sleeping, recovering, posting on social media, the Fever were back in the gym. Coach Sides would roll out basketballs at midnight and issue one simple challenge. Show me you want this more than sleep, more than comfort, more than anything. Those sessions weren't pretty. Exhausted players pushing through fatigue, missing easy shots, frustration boiling over. But something beautiful emerged from that ugly grind. Veterans started staying extra to help rookies. Bench players challenged starters to shooting contests. Inside jokes developed that only made sense at 1 in the morning. Silent communication on the court that came from hundreds of hours together in empty gyms. Hull points to one game that perfectly captured their transformation. Down 15 points to Chicago in the fourth quarter. Earlier in the season, that deficit meant game over. Players would check out mentally, already thinking about the flight home. But this night felt different. Our bench was going absolutely crazy, Hull remembers, her eyes lighting up. Every time out, instead of hanging their heads, it was nothing but encouragement. We lost that game, but we fought until the final buzzer. That's when I knew we weren't the same team anymore. Coach Sides introduced a post-game ritual that became sacred. Win or lose, the team would circle up in the locker room. Each player had to name one thing they were proud of and one lesson they learned. It sounds simple, maybe even corny, but for a team drowning in negativity, it was revolutionary. Slowly, incrementally, they stopped obsessing over what they lacked and started celebrating what they were building. Practices transformed from going through the motions to legitimate battles. Sides designed chaos drills that pushed them past comfort. Three-point shots with teammates screaming in your ear. Free throws after exhausting sprints that left legs shaking. Late-game situations practiced until muscle memory took over. The goal wasn't just improving skills, it was building mental armor that no opponent could crack. The media started noticing. Headlines shifted from questioning what was wrong with Indiana to marveling at their improvement. But inside that locker room, they weren't satisfied with just being competitive. They were chasing something bigger. Hull's personal journey mirrored the team's rise. That shooting slump that nearly ended her career became her greatest teacher. She rebuilt her entire routine from scratch. 500 shots before practice, 500 after. Film study that bordered on obsession, breaking down every made and missed shot to find patterns. Off the court, bonds deepened in ways that only struggle can create. Team dinners turned into family gatherings. Movie nights became therapy sessions. Community work reminded them why they played. When you're fighting alongside people you genuinely love, Hull says, losing hurts less and winning means everything. Looking back at those brutal first 20 days, Hull sees them differently now. That schedule that nearly broke them, it forced us to grow up fast, to trust each other when trust felt impossible, to find strength we didn't know existed. You can't teach that in practice. You survive it or you don't. And just when they'd found their rhythm, just when they'd transformed from victims to fighters, everything changed again. The announcement sent shockwaves through the WNBA. Caitlin Clark was coming to Indiana. The phenom who'd revolutionized college basketball was joining the Fever. Suddenly, those midnight practice sessions had new meaning. They weren't just building a team anymore, they were preparing for greatness. The day Clark walked into the practice facility, Hull says the energy was unlike anything she'd ever felt. Cameras everywhere, fans pressed against windows, reporters fighting for position. It was absolute mayhem, Hull laughs. But when practice started, all that noise faded away. Playing with Caitlin required a complete mental reset. She sees passes that shouldn't exist in basketball physics. Hull tells a story that perfectly captures the Caitlin Clark effect. I'd be cutting to the basket, thinking I was completely out of the play, nowhere near getting the ball. Then suddenly, it's in my hands for an easy layup. Caitlin had threaded a pass through 3 defenders at an angle that made no sense. After missing a few of those perfect passes, I learned to always stay ready. With Caitlin, if you're on the court, you're in the play. The impact was immediate and staggering. The Fever went from playing in half-empty arenas to selling out every single game. Ticket prices skyrocketed. Every practice drew national media coverage. Road games felt like playoff atmospheres. We went from being ignored to being the hottest ticket in women's basketball overnight, Hull marvels. But here's what the stats don't show. Clark's presence elevated everyone around her. Defenses were so focused on stopping Caitlin that players like Hull suddenly found themselves with wide-open looks they'd never gotten before. Hull's shooting percentage skyrocketed. Her confidence returned with vengeance. Some people talk about the pressure of playing with a superstar, Hull explains. But honestly, Caitlin makes the game easier for everyone. She's so unselfish, always looking to create for others. Coach Stephanie White pulled Hull aside after one practice with a message that changed everything. Stop thinking like a role player. Start thinking like a weapon. Hunt your shots. Be aggressive. From that moment, Hull's connection with Clark became telepathic. They stayed after every practice, working on timing, angles, chemistry. Get to this exact spot, Clark told her, drawing it on the whiteboard, and I'll find you every single time. She meant it. The pressure of playing on the biggest stage brought new challenges. Every mistake replayed on national TV. Every loss dissected by millions. Every controversy magnified. But the fever had been forged in those dark early days. They'd survived rock bottom together. This pressure? This was nothing compared to wanting to quit in May. Looking ahead to the future, Hull's quiet confidence speaks volumes. We're not just happy to be here anymore. We're not satisfied with moral victories or keeping games close. We believe we can win it all. She pauses, choosing her words carefully. Playing with Caitlin, learning from Coach White, surviving those dark days together, it showed us what's possible. But more importantly, it showed us who we really are when everything's on the line. The transformation is complete. From a player who couldn't look teammates in the eye to one of the deadliest shooters in the league. From a team that wanted the season to end to legitimate championship contenders. From dysfunction to family. The Indiana Fever's journey isn't just about basketball. It's about what happens when people refuse to give up on each other. So, what do you think? Are the Fever ready to shock the world and bring a championship to Indiana? Can Caitlin Clark and Lexie Hull lead this transformed team to the promised land? Drop your predictions in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe for more exclusive behind-the-scenes WNBA content. The story of this team is just beginning, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next.